How much does a home renovation project cost? What is it going to cost you to update that kitchen or to renovate the master bathroom? What type of contractors do you need for your home renovation project? Exactly who do you have to hire to execute that vision that you have for your home renovation project? What type of home renovation project are you doing? And what's the purpose of that home renovation project? Why? Where's the best place to get the materials that you need for your home renovation project? Do you shop at Home Depot or do you go direct to a manufacturer? Is it Amazon? Where are you going to get the materials, the best materials for your home renovation project? I want to help people understand the process for doing a major home renovation and to think about it in a way that it's systematic. I want to help people understand the financial implications of that home renovation project before they start the project. I want to help people understand the most effective way to plan, start, manage, and complete a major home renovation project. This is what we'll be talking about today on Conversations with a Contractor. Welcome to Conversations with the Contractor. I am your host, Munir Bahar, and this is episode 2. Today, I want to focus on something that I think the majority of my audience could relate to, and that's home renovation projects, right? Most of us have been involved, have had a home renovation project, or maybe some of us, if we're new homeowners, we're going to undergo a home renovation project at some point. Now, I don't know about anyone, but I've never heard of a class in college or anything else on home renovations, right? So there's this kind of understanding that you're just supposed to understand what a home renovation project should look like or what it should cost, or maybe there's a misunderstanding that you can rely on your contractor to navigate you through that home renovation project. I say no. Every individual, every homeowner who's going to undergo a major home renovation project, they should understand certain things about that process that's going to help them to have a much more effective process. All right. Now, when we say effective, ultimately, we want to get the goal accomplished. We want to be on budget and we want to be on time, right? And we want to complete, we want to walk away, and we don't want to mess up anything else, right, during that process. So that's an effective or an efficient home renovation project. And I think everyone has the capacity to be the steward of their own home renovation project if they understand certain things. So that's what I want to talk about in this episode, are the 10 points of a home renovation project that every homeowner or every developer needs to know before undergoing a home renovation project. Number 1, we have to understand the purpose. Before you start the project, you need to understand what is the purpose of that renovation project, because the purpose is going to ultimately shape how much you invest and what type of outcome that you want. For instance, is the home renovation project you're undergoing, do you want it just for value purposes? Maybe you are going to get an appraisal soon, you want to refinance, and so you want to undergo this project so it can affect the value, right? Maybe it's function, all right? Something happened to someone living in your home and maybe their mobility status has changed, and so now you have to make alterations in the house to accommodate that. Or maybe you need more space. Maybe there's a new child in the family and you have to create more space. So there's function as a purpose. There's also resale value. Maybe you're going to be selling a home in the near future, and so there are things that you want to do to resell the home, which if it is for the point of reselling, then ultimately that too is affecting the value. So that becomes a value-based purpose as well too. Or maybe it's just aesthetics. You've been in a house for a certain amount of time and you're tired of the way it looks and you want to change up the looks because you understand that your environment influences how you feel and all that good stuff. So depending on your purpose is going to determine how far you go, how much you spend, how deep you go into that project. So what has to be understood first and foremost is what is the purpose of that project. Two, material selection is important, okay? Don't leave it to your contractor to decide the materials. Based on your purpose, that is going to influence the materials that you select. For instance, your bathroom renovation, right? You want to renovate this bathroom. If you are keeping the home, then ultimately you want materials in that bathroom to reflect your style, your choice of color, your aesthetic expression, right? If you're going to sell the home, you may not go that far as to, you may want to choose something a little more neutral. So again, depending on what the purpose of your home renovation project is, that's going to determine your material selection, the quality, the aesthetic value of the materials, and ultimately that's going to determine where you shop. Okay, so maybe that standard Home Depot or Lowe's, not taking anything from them, but maybe that standard material base there isn't going to meet your expectations. Maybe you want something more high end, so you're going to shop somewhere else. So material selection is going to be based on what your overall purpose is, right? So that's important. Again, I'm not saying your contractor can't have any input in the materials. I mean, when we're talking about things like drywall, sure, right? There's no such thing as luxury drywall, right? It's more the finished materials that you're going to have that really you're responsible for deciding based on the purpose of that renovation project, okay? So we're talking about finished materials, the materials that are actually visible to everybody after the project is done. The third element that you have to understand is contractor selection, okay? If you want to redo your kitchen, what type of contractors do you need in your house to renovate your kitchen? Do you just need a building contractor? Do you need a plumber? Do you need an electrician? Who do you need to complete the job? Do you need the quote unquote jack of all trades? Understanding it is going to help you to understand the risks involved, okay? If there's major plumbing work that has to be done in this particular home renovation project, maybe the jack of all trades isn't the one that, the most suitable person for that. Maybe you do need to bring in a plumber, maybe to just do that part. Surely you're not bringing on a plumber to hang the kitchen cabinets, but to do the complex plumbing work, it may require one, right? And it's just an example. You may need different contractors based on the severity of the project, but you need to have that understanding. Don't think that that guy you met in the Home Depot parking lot that has a nice truck that says we do it all absolutely has all the capacity you need for your renovation project. You may need specialists in certain areas to play a small role in ensuring the integrity of that part of the process and to make sure it's up to par, and then maybe this other person can finish up these other things. So understand that you may need different people, different contractors based on what the project is. If you want some fancy tile work, next level tile work, that jack of all trades guy may not be the one. I prefer a tile person who does tile every day. If I want high level tile work done in my renovation project, whether it's a bathroom, whether it's, any room, and I want no flaws in the tile work, I don't want the guy that does everything. He does plumbing, electric, and roofing. He does everything every day. I want the guy that does tile every day. I want the specialist, because they're going to be a lot more keen to the nuances of that particular installation. So contractor selection is important. Number 4, understand the cost versus value principle. What that means is you have to look at the relationship between the cost of the renovation project and the value. The value that that project is going to add to the home, and then the overall value of the home after that project is completed. Okay? Because in every real estate project is different. Every renovation project is different. But there are some cases where a particular project the cost of it, if it exceeds the value based on your overall purpose, it may not make sense. For instance, or it may make sense because you don't care about the value. Now, here are the scenarios. Someone has an accident that lives in your home, their mobility is affected. This is a home that you're keeping. So now you have to do some ADA accessible alterations to your home. At this point, you're not worried about what the value is going to be. You're worried more about the function. You have to now have that ADA accessible ramp. You now have to add that electric chair stair lift, right? You have to add these things regardless of the cost. You have to add these things to the home because of the functional requirements, regardless of what they cost. They're not going to add to the value of the home. Your appraisal is not going to go up, but you have to do these things. So in this case, the cost in the relationship to the value really don't matter because it's a functional thing. Another example where it does matter, let's say you're going to sell the house. I'm going to renovate the kitchen, or I'll use me for example. I'm going to renovate my kitchen so I can sell the house. Now, I can build a $10,000 kitchen. I can build a $30,000 kitchen. Based on what I think the value can be of that house after the project is done, that's going to determine my cost. So I'm not going to build a $40,000 kitchen in a home where me building that kitchen won't add $40,000 more to the value of the home, right? And we're talking to maybe like smaller homes, like a home that's selling for $200,000. Why put $50,000 into a kitchen? You know, that's a quarter of the home price. Depending on the overall purpose of that construction project, that's going to determine that cost versus value principle. Okay, so you got to look at the cost, you got to look at the value, and you got to measure those two numbers, and you got to understand what makes sense. And that's going to be, again, driven by what is the purpose of the project. Number 5, material research. I talked about it earlier, material selection. Don't assume that your contractor is going to provide the best recommendations for materials. Don't assume that your contractor is going to search for the best materials. Don't assume your contractor is going to do the research for the best material installation practices, right? Which most materials, their manufacturers give guidelines on how materials should be installed. Do not assume that your contractor knows this all. I'm a contractor, okay? And I'm telling you this. Do not assume your contractor knows how to install all materials. All materials are not installed equally. That's not how it works. Every piece of material, from a screw to a piece of tile to a plumbing fixture, everything is created in a warehouse, and those producers of those elements all have their installation methods, and that's what we're supposed to go by. So a good contractor is going to research that. If it's a material they haven't used before, they're going to research it so that they can make sure they're following best installation practices. I think homeowners should have that information handy too. For instance, if you're going to renovate your shower and you're going to use the Sluter system, don't assume your contractor is familiar with Sluter system products. You should do the research also, because what happens is if you have the knowledge, you may catch one of those contractors doing something wrong. The only way you'll know if they're doing something wrong is if you know what doing right looks like. And you don't have to be an expert, but YouTube is a very great source for studying different material installation practices. So again, don't rely on your contractor. I mean, look, I hope everyone has a great contractor experience, but I know that's not possible. That it's actually not going to happen, right? It's not realistic. So the homeowner has to take some of the responsibility of once you decide what those materials are, you should do a little research in understanding what those installation practices are for those materials that you chose, not your contractor. Number 6, I know folks are going to have comments on this one. Don't expect free estimates. Don't expect free estimates. Everybody wants a free estimate. Let me tell you what's wrong with free estimates. Free estimates are very short-sighted, quick assumptions that are made, right? How much is the bathroom renovation going to cost? Oh, it could be 6, could be 7,000, could be 8,000, could be 12,000. That just doesn't work, right? That doesn't satisfy you. That doesn't send you to the bank knowing exactly what you need. What you need is an assessment, okay? And an assessment takes time. The contractor needs to know every detail as to what you want. There needs to be discussions on options, on material choices. There needs to be discussions on process. There needs to be discussions as far as the timing. There's just so many things to discuss between you and your potential contractor. That takes time. And I'm sorry, I'm not in the business to give away my time, right? We make our money, contractors, builders, based on time and the value that we create or that we add. So expect to spend time to really come up with a proper assessment as to what a project will cost. Now, I'm not talking about small things like painting the wall. That's small. But when we talk about major renovations, building an addition, finishing a basement, every choice that you want is going to determine what that cost is. Every piece of material that you want is going to determine what that cost is. It's going to take time to figure that out, right? So that time needs to be accounted for in the overall bill. Some contractors may give you that time on the front end and then work that into their bill. But just this whole phenomena of free estimates, somebody tell me, how's that working out? Right? Because, early in my career, you see it everywhere. Folks say, oh, we come to do free estimates. Yeah, maybe for small things like painting a room. But for more complex jobs, I'm involved in very complex construction projects, building entire homes or commercial spaces. Projects that it takes weeks to figure out what the actual costs are. Hours of on-site assessments, hours and hours of research. That takes time. I'm not in the business of providing free estimates because I'm not in the business of giving free time. All I'm saying is, as a homeowner, one of the biggest things you can do to show respect to contractors or builders that you work with is make sure that their time is accounting for and what you're paying them. And so even initially up front, if you want the most detailed assessment of what your project is going to cost, be prepared to spend some time. Time not only on site, you may spend that time going to a manufacturer store to figure out what materials you want. That's going to be time. You may ask your contractor, hey, can you come meet me here so that we can look at the type of tile that we want, so we can look at vanities, so we can look at faucets. That's time for you to really understand what it's going to cost. Don't fall for the free estimate scam, because I'm going to say that's what it was, or that's what it is. All right, don't fall for the free estimate scam. These contractors will come to your property, give you some number just to get you in a contract. I guarantee you during that process, there's going to be change orders. I guarantee you they're going to say, oh, we need this now, or we didn't see this. Yeah, that's because you only spent 30 minutes. 30 minutes is not enough to figure out what a true renovation project is going to cost. All right. Number 7, here's something I know most contractors won't tell you. Only accept itemized quotes. Don't ever accept just a generic round figure quote from a contractor. If a contractor can't itemize what they are charging you for, material and labor, that's a red flag. Okay. Not only am I going to tell you what materials that we need and what they cost, estimation, I'm going to tell you what we have to do so that you can understand what you're actually paying for. Okay, if we have to rip up the basement floor, if we have to dig 3 feet down to install new sewer pipes, if we have to run a new vent pipe out the roof, everything involved in that bathroom renovation project, it needs to be detailed so that you have a solid understanding as to what you're paying for. So if a contractor is just giving you this Oh, it's going to be 16,000 to do your bathroom. And they give you that piece of paper with just 16,000 on there. That's not telling you anything. And it's a red flag. And again, I'm telling you this as a contractor, all right, because again, I'm a human first. I'm a building owner first. I'm a homeowner first. And I've dealt with many contractors and contractors who cannot itemize their estimates. It's a red flag. Number 8, materials should be purchased before the job starts. Not the day of the job, not during the job, not when the contractors show up. Get your materials on site, have the materials ready before the project starts. It's going to make the project flow much more fluidly. I can't tell you how many times I'm on site and, or on a project and I got to stop because I got to go run and get this, or I got to go run and get that. I'm telling you, I hate material trips. I hate material trips. They consume so much time. Now, as the general contractor on my projects, I assume that responsibility because my subcontractors or my employees that are working, I need them to flow. So I have to make sure that I have what they need to flow for that particular day or for that particular process or whatever the time period is. Well, same thing with the homeowner. If you're doing a major renovation project, get all your materials beforehand, right? Because that also kind of seals the deal. If you got all your materials on hand, that means you've made decisions. I'm telling you, contractors, we hate clients who cannot make up their minds. Who, when you start, all of a sudden they want to do something else because the materials weren't bought yet. For instance, you hire me to come and renovate your bathroom. You haven't chosen the tile yet, though. You said, "Oh yeah, let's just go ahead and get started." And I'm saying, "Okay, we'll get started." I won't do that in real life, but I agree. Okay, we're going to get started. In my mind, I'm thinking you're going to choose 12 by 24 size tiles or 12 by 12 tiles, right? So I kind of have an understanding of how long it's going to take me to do this 100 square foot floor. You come in with some little 2-inch by 2-inch tiles, after the job is started. That material, that difference of that 2 by 2 tile versus that 12-inch by, that means it's going to take me longer to do that floor just because the material you selected was different than what I may have had in mind, right? So if you have had that tile from the beginning, then I, as the contractor, would understand the time and materials it's really going to take to complete that job based on the materials that are on hand. And I've seen that. I mean, again, when it comes to tiling, right? The size of the tile matters in terms of the time it's going to take to install it. And that's just one small example. So having the materials on site means decisions are made. And that means that everybody involved can have a better understanding, a definite understanding as far as how things are going to flow. Number 9, you won't hear anybody talking about this. Direct your waste management. You need to direct that. Do not assume that your contractor is a tidy person. Don't assume that they have common sense. I spoke about that in one of my other episodes, not assuming everybody has common sense. If you want your site, if you want your place to remain neat even throughout a construction process, you have to direct the waste management. Meaning, you may say, "Hey, guys, after you demo, let's get rid of this stuff first before we start the next phase." Or once you guys do this, can we clean up? Can we shop vac? Can we make sure the ducts are clean? Can we, since we've gotten through the dusty process, can we clean all of this first before we start the next part of the project? Don't assume everybody, again, is going to have the common sense to do these things. I've seen some people who literally don't clean up until the end of a project, and it's horrible. It's like you got to swim through debris and trash and materials that aren't even used yet. All this stuff is just in one place. It's messy. It's chaotic. So you direct waste management. You make sure that the dumpster comes at a certain time or the trash bags that they have them. You ask, "Hey, do you have contractor bags?" You don't be afraid to step into that part of the process to keep your stuff neat if you value neatness and organization during a construction process. And number 10, the last one, and I'm not saying this because I'm a contractor. Everybody's gonna be like, oh, he's biased. Listen, tip for excellent service. Tip for excellent service. I tip everybody that works for me because I want them to know that I value our relationship. I value their help more than I value keeping the extra dollar in my pocket. Good help is so hard to find in the construction industry right now that you want to do little things like this to just show your appreciation, because showing your appreciation goes a long way. Contractors can be very loyal. Contractors can be very unloyal. And I'm not saying you're buying loyalty. What I'm saying is, or what I'm recommending is that you use currency to show your appreciation, because ultimately the relationship between you and the contractor is based on that currency. Contractors can do the same thing, and good contractors do, meaning we show our appreciation for business by doing some of those extra little things and not charging you. There are always going to be little things that may not be in the work scope that a good contractor is going to say, you know what? It's not in the work scope, but I should do this because while we have this wall uncovered, I can go ahead and get to this, and it could add value or it could add stability to the project. Even though the client may not know or this wasn't discussed, a good contractor is always going to do some little things because it's just in our DNA to do so. And a good client, I think, will always tip, or show some type of appreciation for the work that's been provided and the service that's been provided, because the rate of good contractor experiences versus bad contractor experiences are way lower. I think there are more bad contractor experiences than there are good contractor experience. So show your appreciation, tip your contractors. Just a small thing. Sometimes it may not have to be money. It could just be food. Your contractors show up to work, you're giving them, making sure they have drinks or making sure they have something to eat. No, you don't have to do it, but these are just the little things that add humanity to the process, to the relationship, right? It will go far, trust me. And when a contractor receives your appreciation and values that, trust me, their loyalty to you will grow. These are my 10 tips to help homeowners understand how to navigate through a home renovation project and do it where they have control, they have some authority, they have direct influence and guidance to ensure that the objective, the outcome is really met, and to do so with as little problems as possible. Yes, there's always going to be something that's going to happen, but if you follow these things, then you'll be able to minimize the risk for greater damage or catastrophic failure of that home renovation project. So in construction, in real estate development, there are a lot of material out here in the media that leads people with the idea that you're in this space for money. Think about all the ads that you see online: invest in real estate, become a real estate investor, multifamily houses, and they're always in those ads, or at the end of that ad, it's always reeling you into some type of financial goal, right? Make 6 figures, make 7 figures. And I mean, that's okay and that's great. It's actually kind of boring to me, especially when everyone's doing it. Everyone's using the same marketing tactics. Money is not the only reason to be in real estate development. Money is not the only reason to build houses. For me, there's also a human aspect to it. I'm providing houses for people to live in. A house is a temple. A house is a place where literally people feel the safest. Like, that's a sacred space, a house. I feel honored to be in a space that I can create or help to shape and create those sacred spaces for people. I feel like I'm adding to people's lives. The way I build the house, the colors that we choose, the functionality of the house, all those things actually influence how people feel, how people move about through life. To me, that's a great honor to be in that space of providing shelter for other human beings, whether it's commercial or residential. I mean, some people have dreams, right, of being in a commercial space. Me being able to build that commercial space, like that's an honor. I had a friend who wanted to do a juice bar. I built his juice bar. Like, that's a great thing. He had a huge goal, him and his wife, to build this juice bar business and brand. And I was able to help him achieve that goal as an entrepreneur. Like, forget the money that was exchanged between us or the time to, for the work, the symbolic gesture of I helped this entrepreneur achieve their goal. Like, to me, that's huge. It's not about the money. It's bigger than that. So I think that the calling for some of us in real estate development, it's bigger than just money. And I'm tired of seeing so many advertisements and social media dialogues that just focus on money. There's so much more that we can add to the value of humanity in the business or industry of real estate development. Another big one is workforce development. I've been a champion for getting young people involved in construction for 15 years. I'm proud to say that every project I've ever embarked on in construction, I've had young people working on, so that they can learn a skill, they can learn the industry, they can learn the environment, they also can learn about themselves. So I also see construction, real estate development as an opportunity to get young people engaged in, again, a higher calling of providing shelter. So there are more reasons, and I could keep going on and on and on. There are so many reasons why an individual could be involved in real estate development that extend way beyond just money. Like, money is not it. There's a human aspect to it. There's just something about how we increase the connection between humans through real estate. I don't like the fact in the current industry, most sellers never have a conversation with the buyers. I've experienced that in the houses that I bought, that I lived in. All transactions were conducted through the realtors. The seller never ever had a conversation with the buyer. This is an exchange of a temple. I'm exchanging my temple, my sacred place, and now I'm selling it to another person, and it's going to be their sacred place. Why aren't more conversations facilitated between those two? I'm not trying to change the real estate industry. I just believe that there's opportunity in construction, in real estate, to drive greater or better connections between the humans that are involved at every level, from the material provider to the owner who's going to live in the house. We can, just add to the complex relationships that we have as humans. I think there's opportunities where we can massage those relationships and build better relationships with everybody involved in the process. And we could all make money. We could all have what we want out of it, but we can also still add to the dynamics of our relationships, which just makes it better for all of humanity. Thanks for tuning in to the second episode of Conversations with the Contractor. If you understand some of the things that I'm saying, or if you don't understand, I want to hear from you. Comment, let me know what your thoughts are on some of these elements. These are my thoughts and opinions. They don't run the world of construction. I just have a perspective that I want to share, but I also want to hear from you all, the audience, and what you may think on some of these things. So feel free to comment and, let's have a conversation with the Contractor. Subscribe to the channel. Thank you for joining Conversations with the Contractor. I am Munir Bahar.